What's up, everybody? Pre-workout video for once. You guys can look at the difference in my countenance, pre versus post. I'll make another post video. Thought for the day. Pre-workout thought for the day. You know, I listen to a lot of the talking heads. I do my best to, choose who I'm listening to, because if you watch the Crisis News Network, as Peter Diamandis calls it, or any source of mainstream news, it's just going to be a bombardment of emotionally triggering information, and that's not healthy. So choose your information diet like you choose your diet of food. It preempts your health in those domains, right? Mental health and physical health. Okay, so what's my thought? That's one thought, is to be just simply conscious of what you consume in terms of information, because there's entire industries established and built on emotionally hooking you such that they can feed you carefully constructed and curated information, right? That's the whole ethos of advertising. Okay, I guess I'm kind of going on a tangent, because what I really wanted to talk about is this. There are people that have worked really hard to become those talking heads, and you can take a cynical view of the kind of independent media, podcast bros, political figures that are on the younger side, these people that are social media native upstarts. And one kind of take of that is what I find myself kind of in between the two thoughts of, is like a frustration that there are people that present their thoughts and feelings on the state of affairs of the world. Think like Tim Pool, Dave Smith, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, and they don't have to just be members of the right, AOC, what have you. There's this group of people that are taken seriously by their large audiences now in this new paradigm of kind of democratized information sharing. And you saw this coming if you're my age. I'm almost 40, when Napster and Morpheus and LimeWire were a thing. And then, of course, digital piracy, in the video game community and the music, and movies. It became clear that P2P, person to person, is much more powerful than is centralized to customers, right? And so that's the paradigm that has allowed these younger people to get into politics and have opinions that, are broadcast, to these huge audiences of theirs. And without, saying, okay, that's frustrating, or the other side of that take would be, that's inspiring. These people have worked really hard to curate audiences through this kind of new media landscape that we have. But even beside that, I recognize in, this channel and just my life, that the idea of alchemy and the Full Metal Alchemist, if you've ever seen that anime, is true. And that is the law of equivalent exchange. And any motivational video will tell you this piece of wisdom at some point also, and that is, whatever you want, you need to sacrifice for, because that's how the world works. That's how nature operates. There's a sort of transmutation of what you give up that then codes for what you are getting moving forward, right? How you set yourself up in your life, you have to sacrifice the infinite possibilities of the choices that you didn't take for what you can work towards on the path that you choose, right? So knowing that, because I can see what I have to put on the line, the potential, feeling of rejection or disagreement or misunderstanding that one, you know, grapples with when they speak their mind to others is the kind of ante for the opportunity to win things like an audience, things like the ability to be heard and feel seen, if you will. So I just think that that's a really important thought to grapple with as our, you know, pre-workout thought of the day. You can have anything you want. That's true. When people tell you that you can be anything you want, you can have anything you want. That's true. That's true. But it's half of the actual equation that you need to understand mathematically if you're going to engage in this kind of activity of being everything you want. The other half of that statement is you can be everything you want if you sacrifice something of equal value in terms of potential or opportunity, right? You can have anything you want if you sacrifice something that is equally valuable. You can achieve anything you want if you sacrifice the ability to achieve all of the other things of equal status level that you could have been pursuing as you go after that. Once you get that, once you understand that in life, you are ready to take that next step of becoming disciplined and focused and driven. Because then you at least have a sort of mathematical, physics-based, reasonable, rational foundation for believing that you have the ability to be successful. One thing that I think is probably the most, detrimental thing in the mindset of people that are unsuccessful. I was going to say young people and people that are particularly going through it, but it's not necessarily demographically, defined or limited. But anybody that is self-defeating is by definition demoralized. And demoralization comes in a lot of forms, whether it's, the inability to sacrifice the near term for the long term, like materialism, vanity, hedonism, or if it's the demoralization that comes from not believing that success is possible in a sort of, depression, nihilism, existentialism on the negative side in terms of like dread and inability to, move forward, analysis paralysis. You need to get out of those two unsuccessful mindsets into the understanding that if you make the right sacrifices in your life and then orient yourself by virtue of kind of offering up everything else in the direction of your true goal, your highest purpose, your greatest desire, then you can kind of enter into the great hero's journey of your life. Then you can become the main character of your story. Then you can have that, touch of transcendence and view of divinity that is the ability to manifest your own future, the ability to, through your words and deeds and actions, create the future that you and only you see, right? In the future, right? You're not seeing through space the way that we think that sight only operates. You're seeing through time. And that is also the way that vision works. That's why we have a kind of double entendre for the word vision. Vision not only speaks to your ability to see something physically in the distance, but a person with vision can be said to see things before they happen, to see the future of objects. So something to think about. The people that are telling you what for, the people that have audiences, the people that are successful are people that have sacrificed. Number one. Number two, you can have a kind of winner's script or loser's script on your life and the ability to be successful, right? Number three, those that choose to have a winner's script, if you sacrifice, equal value for what you truly desire, you can achieve it. And number four is something like you have to be consistent in that every day. And that's where discipline comes in. That's where focus, maintaining vision, etc. comes in. And then kind of number five is just like, then you get to see what magic is and manifesting you know, genius of the cosmos all around us, you know, the force, you know. These things are kind of code for what it is to enter into a life of conscious transformation. So there's my pre-workout thoughts. I'll talk to you soon. Love you guys.